From To Keto LLC, it's Keto Woman Podcast with Daisy Brackenhall.
Hello, Keto Lovelies. I'm Daisy Brackenhall, and I've spent most of my life struggling with my weight and confidence, and have always had a difficult relationship with food. Even when I finally got to my target weight, after weight loss surgery and eating low carb, I couldn't maintain it and I was miserable. Keto has given me the freedom to fall in love with food again, without the constant gain, loss, guilt, virtue cycle of before. Health and happiness is where it's at now, running on fat. Welcome to the Keto Woman Podcast. Each week I'll be chatting to inspirational women, maybe even the odd man, to discover the secrets to their success so that I can share them with you. So what is keto? Keto is a way of eating that enables you to switch your body's main fuel source from sugar to fat. Who doesn't want to be a fat burner, right? But how do we achieve this? A great place to start is by keeping carbs to 20 grams or less per day. So things like leafy greens and above ground vegetables, plus some nuts and seeds, and the incidental carbs you find in things like dairy. Moderate protein scaled to your lean body mass, and then fat to satiety. Once you're in the swing of things, you can tweak it to suit you. Make your own personalised keto. I'll be asking my guest each week what their keto looks like to show you just how flexible and fabulous this way of eating can be. I'm not a doctor, and most of my guests won't be either, so we can't give you medical advice. It's always best to work with your own doctor because they know you and your medical history, and so have access to the bigger picture. This week's extraordinary woman is Pamela Zorn. Pamela has been keto for about a year. In that time, she has lost 40 pounds and gone from a size 20 to a size 12 pants, extra large shirts to a medium. Her asthma and hypoglycemia are gone, and she has even done a 72-hour fast. Pamela and her husband own a cheese and wine workshop store in Denver called Wine and Way. You can find out more about the workshops they offer at wineandway.com. Pamela has been teaching wine and cheese classes for over 4 years and is currently working on the plan to be a travelling cheese instructor. I love wine and I love cheese, so talking about them with Pamela was pure joy. I can't wait to meet her and her husband at Keto Fest in July and get to see her in action making the delicious sounding burrata. Welcome, Pamela, to the Keto Woman Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thank you, Daisy. I'm so happy to finally get to talk with you.
Yes, it's exciting. We've been planning this for a while, haven't we? And I finally got you.
Between my schedule and your schedule, it was a little bit of a chore, but we got it.
We got there in the end. Okay, so why don't you tell me a bit about your life before keto, what it was like and what led you to go looking for keto in the first place?
Well, at 17 years old, I was diagnosed with hypoglycemia. I got married, got pregnant, or vice versa, and I kept passing out. And so I went and got a 6-hour glucose test done, which, by the way, is torture for somebody that needs to eat, and was diagnosed with hypoglycemia. So at that time, nobody ever said anything about diet except you should eat more often, smaller meals more often. That's the only advice I ever got. So since I was 17, have been on this wave of super high blood sugar, super low blood sugar. And I get very ill if I don't eat every 4 hours so I've been on this roller coaster since I was 17 and didn't know there was another way. Nobody ever told me there's another way. And so I met Brenda Zorn, I should say in quotes, because we were part of the same fermenting group on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
okay.
So she reached out. She says, is there any possibility that we're related because we have the same last name? And so we asked a few questions and realized probably not, but maybe we are somewhere in my husband's family. And then we became friends on Facebook. So I got to see all of her posting about the steak challenge and about her lifting and all of the things that she does. And I joined the KKB and just lurked there for almost 4 months before I ever said a word. I just watched all the posting and watched everybody doing so well. And somebody mentioned the hypoglycemia. And at that point, I thought, maybe I can do this. But I reached out to Brenda and said, I think I could do keto, but everybody talks about fasting, and there's no way with my hypoglycemia that I'm going to be able to fast. And she assured me that fasting is just something people do. It doesn't necessarily mean it's keto.
No, absolutely. Don't have to do the two together. They do go quite well hand in hand, but it's not obligatory.
Right. So my husband had done Atkins before we got married. He lost a substantial amount of weight doing Atkins, but he only did the very beginning of Atkins,
the induction phase.
Exactly. And he did a great job on it.
Mm-hmm. So the bit that's most like keto, actually, out of Atkins, it's that first bit, isn't it, that's most like it?
It is, except that, again, Atkins didn't say limit your protein or eat more fat. So he was eating a lot of protein, but he likes to make something called musnaise, which is mustard and mayonnaise mixed together.
Oh, right.
Right. So he was eating like rolled up ham and dipping it in the musnaise. So he was doing basically keto, but probably too high of protein at that. So we got married, and I was a chef when we got married. And so he started not eating the induction phase of Atkins, and he regained all the weight that he had lost on Atkins. Over the 20 years that we've been married, I gained 70 pounds. And it just, it happened so gradually that, I noticed because I'm having to buy new clothes, but it wasn't like something I was really worried about. My weight has never really been something I worried about. But this example of all the KKBers were having weight loss and feeling better and all of those things, that's why I decided to try keto. And I'm the kind of person that if you say diet to me, I instantly gain weight. I mean, it's just like the thing that I do. So I've never dieted because I know it doesn't work for me. And because it's all restriction diets, and with my hypoglycemia, that made me miserable, and it just wasn't going to work for me. So I never worried about it. I ate all of the bad things and felt guilty. And, so that's what I've been doing the whole time I've been married to my husband. And so keto saved my life, seriously, because my hypoglycemia is gone. And even more, my asthma is gone. I had terrible asthma, and that's completely gone now too. So
that's fantastic. So how were you eating before then? You said you had to eat every couple of hours to make sure you didn't have a hypo, presumably, before.
Exactly. Yeah. I got my husband always knew if I was having a problem because I'd get really pissy. And then my face would start going numb, and my wrists my hands would start curling in. And if I didn't eat by then, I laid down and went to sleep, and it was a chore to wake me up to get me to eat something. So I was very bad. And now I've done a 72-hour fast.
Wow. I mean,
yeah,
that's incredible. What a complete difference.
So for me, it seriously saved my life, because I really was resigned to this roller coaster that I had been on. I didn't know there was another way. I didn't know that, I could stop doing that. So it was really nice.
And ultimately, you were basically doing what you'd been told to do anyway.
Exactly. Except, again, nobody ever told me diet advice. They told me, eat every 4 hours. That's the only advice I ever got. So I grew up in a poor family. So we grew up making our own bread and pasta and all of the things that, are inexpensive. Lots of beans and rice and all of the things, so that's what I grew up eating and that's what I enjoyed. And so that's what I've been doing. And, presumably high protein, but also super high carb.
Mm-hmm. And so what does your day-to-day keto look like now? Apart from when you're doing 72-hour fast.
Part of it is that we get to our shop that we run at 2 p.m. every day. And we try to eat something before we come in or while we're here. I have a bag of macadamia nuts here. We buy from our local Mexican market, we buy freshly made chicharrones, pork rinds. So we eat those during the day. But honestly, we don't get home until 8:30 or 9 at night generally. And I make a giant ribeye steak cooked in bacon fat or avocado oil, depending on what I have. And then I make compound butters. We make our own butters. So usually our ribeye is smothered in blue cheese butter or something like that. And sometimes we have a vegetable, and sometimes I'm too tired to cook, and we just have the steak. We do, on the days off, I cook. So I have lots of different things. So tonight we're going to do jalapeno poppers, wrapped in bacon on my smoker. So I don't have a specific keto where we don't pay attention too much to the macros. We definitely try to add as much fat as possible. And generally we stay under 20 grams a day. So because we're very, we're more carnivore than anything, but we do eat vegetables. We enjoy vegetables a lot. So
I was going to say, it sounds like it. It sounds like probably you have days where you're hardly eating any, and then other days where you might have a bit more of a glut of vegetables. But
right,
you're not finding any kind of comeback with old hypo symptoms.
No, none at all. None at all. Even I guess it's called lazy keto, and that's fine for us. As a chef, I'm pretty good at keto-fying everything. So my Mexican market, I buy beef tallow and beef fat, and then I render it down. So any deep fried stuff we do with tallow. But yeah, I don't pay that much attention. I just kind of know what we should be avoiding, and I do. So
yeah, I've seen some of your recipes that you post every now and then. You did some wonderful cauliflower sort of tater tot type things, didn't you?
Yes, they turned out great.
They look delicious.
even so much as my grandchildren were eating them and had no idea. So
they're a good test case, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. I made I found a recipe for tortillas. 3 ingredient tortillas. And so I mixed them up thinking I was going to make taco shells for the kids. And as soon as the egg mixture hit the pan, I knew they weren't going to work for tortillas for them because they smell very eggy.
Right.
And so I decided, okay, I threw in some almond flour and a little baking powder and mixed that up and made pancakes for them. So I just adapted the recipe to work for them. So
that's the great advantage of having cooking skills, isn't it? I think that's something that it's not an absolute necessity with keto, but I really do think it helps to have some cooking skills and have some confidence in the kitchen. So to do something that, like you say, so you've made a basic recipe.
Yep.
And it's not going to work for you for whatever reason, or something's gone wrong with it. It's not working. It's having the confidence and a little bit of know-how to know what else you can throw in there to then make it work.
Yeah. And it was handy because my grandson, Sam, is autistic and he has a texture issue. And so he was the one that I was really concerned with. I knew that he wouldn't eat them as a tortilla for tacos. So I made them into pancakes. And when his mom asked him, were they real pancakes or were they keto pancakes? He said, oh, they were real. So he had no idea.
Wow, that's
So,
a tough
yeah.
test. Passed
It is.
then.
It
Well
is.
done.
And that particular day, he was having a little bit of a rough day, and he came and hugged me and said, "Thank you. You turned my day around." So it was a good day for him.
Oh, wow. Good day for you too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
How fabulous. So tell me what you do, because you're all about wine and cheese, aren't you?
I am. So, 7 years ago, we moved here to Colorado for me to be a cheesemaker.
Is there a reason is it a particularly good area? Why did you have to move there to make cheese?
Because at the time I lived on the beach in San Diego, and they frown on you having cows on the beach.
Right. Okay. Good point.
Yeah. So I started making cheese here in Colorado. I was renting a commercial kitchen and selling all of our cheeses at a farmer's market on the weekends. So I was making 60 gallons a day, 5 days a
Wow.
week, and then selling it at farmer's markets 2 days a week. And so in 2 years, I burnt myself out completely. And so I quit doing that, but I still wanted to share this knowledge that I have, this awesome gift of cheese, because cheese is amazing. And so we decided that I would teach classes instead of making cheese for sale. So we opened the space that we're in now. It's in downtown Denver in a really great area called the River North Art District. And we have 3,000 square feet. And we teach people how to make wine and cheese here. So I get to share my gift. I still get to make cheese, but I'm not required to do this 5 days a week and then sell it as well. So now I don't sell cheese at all. I just teach people how to make it.
I see. Right. But presumably in your workshops, you make it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the people take it away with them.
Yeah. So it depends on the class, but like mozzarella, I can do milk to mozzarella in 30 minutes.
Wow. Tell me a bit about that. So how do you make mozzarella?
Well, mozzarella is considered an acid cheese, and the microwave is involved.
Really?
So, yeah. So it's a really cool cheese because it goes from, those fluffy cheese curds to meltable, pullable mozzarella. It's like magic. It happens in a matter of seconds while you're doing it. So it's my favorite cheese to teach, probably my least favorite cheese to eat since I've been doing it for so long. But it's the most magical cheese there is. So, and not the easiest. So people always think that's a beginning cheese, and it really isn't. It's the most finicky one that occasionally turns out and occasionally does not.
Right. So why is that? What can go wrong with it then?
Well, it's chemistry, and with chemistry, something can always go wrong. So the cool thing about if mozzarella goes wrong is you either get a really beautiful cream sauce that makes awesome white sauce for pizza, or you get a really bouncy ball of grateable mozzarella, which is, again, great for pizza. So even if it goes wrong, you haven't lost anything.
Oh, great. I see. So that's the difference when you see in the supermarket. For instance, here I can buy the mozzarella that tends to come in balls that's in a liquid.
Right.
That's the one you're aiming for, the sort of middle ground. But then you get the blocks of the much harder grateable stuff that they call pizza cheese.
Exactly. Yep. So that one is just a matter of technique, and you can learn that technique is easy. It's just a little bit of a technique. So
I quite like the sound of the other end of the scale as well.
Yes, the cream sauce.
Yeah.
And it happens occasionally, even in classes. And actually, people are really excited to see that an experienced cheesemaker has problems with it too, so that they know that if that happens at home, it's not that big of a deal, because I go ahead and add salt and pass it around, and they get to taste it on crackers. So they get to see that it's delicious and it's an edible cheese. So
I like that outcome, that you've always got a winning outcome, that even if it goes wrong, you've still got something that you can eat at the end of it. So
exactly,
there's no lost stuff that has to end up in the bin, which does sometimes
Exactly.
happen with other recipes, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, this one there's no bad cheese as far as mozzarella goes.
Yeah. How important is the starting product? So, where do you get your milk from, and how important is it that it's a particular kind? Does pasteurized and non-pasteurized make a big difference?
Well, Colorado and most of the United States, you can't buy raw milk. You buy a share of a cow. And that's the only way to get raw milk here in the US and most states. There are a few states that you can still buy raw milk. So my idea for doing these classes is to make them very accessible. And so I buy my milk at our biggest grocery store, which happens to be called King Soopers. And I buy whole milk as fresh as possible. It's really important that it be fresh, but it's even more important. Organic milk is all ultra pasteurized here in the US. And ultra pasteurized milk is broken beyond repair, and we can't make cheese with it. So my whole idea was accessibility. So if you can just go to your corner grocery store and buy fresh milk, pasteurized, homogenized milk, and make good cheese with it, that's the best outcome. So
Absolutely. So mozzarella then is one of your standard classes.
it is.
What other cheeses do you make?
I teach brie and blue.
Mm.
And they're one class because honestly, brie and blue up to a certain point are exactly the same cheese.
Yeah, it's just the blue bit that goes in that changes it.
Exactly. Yep. Either the white mold or the blue mold.
That's the kind of blue that you make, that sort of soft Cambozola type.
Yep. Exactly.
Ooh, yummy.
So, and then I teach a feta and queso fresco class because they're both the same cheese again. Burrata seems to be everybody's favorite.
I know, I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is.
So traditionally, burrata is mozzarella, and it's got it's a bag of mozzarella and heavy cream surrounded by more mozzarella. So that's burrata. But that traditional method is very skilled, and I have made it a little different for my class because I could probably do it, but the average person is not going to be able to. So we make butter, fresh butter, and then we make fresh ricotta, sweet ricotta, and there's a difference between regular ricotta and sweet ricotta. And we mix the butter and the ricotta together, and that's the filling for the mozzarella. And that's the burrata that we make. Yeah.
So you literally you break open this mozzarella board and you've got this yummy stuff in the middle.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be doing demos at Keto Fest for
I was going to say, I look forward to tasting that. I can't wait.
So, yeah, I wish you would have been here for Low Carb Breckenridge because I made a bunch for everybody at the house. So that's when Carl and Richard said, hey, you want to do this at Keto Fest? So
I bet they did. So you made it there, did you?
I made it before I went. So our shop is about an hour and a half from Breckenridge. And so I made it at the shop and then drove it up there and shared it with everybody at the house. So
I bet they were very happy to see you.
They were. So it was my first time actually meeting any of these people that I have been listening to Two Keto Dudes. And I've talked to Brenda via Facebook plenty of times, but this is the first time I actually got to see people that I know from Facebook and the forums and all the podcasts.
I know, it's so strange, isn't it? Because you do often end up getting to know people really, really well because you're chatting with them a lot, and often quite, on quite intimate subjects. We, in KKB and stuff, we spill our guts, don't we, and talk about all sorts of things.
Well, and we post very intimate pictures of ourselves too. So yeah, it's like, and I'm so grateful for the KKB being completely male free, because I wouldn't feel comfortable posting a picture like that. But it's not just accountability for me. It's also, I get to share this accomplishment. So, it's like, for me, it's such a great accomplishment. And again, weight loss was never really my my thing. That wasn't what I was worried about. Mine was totally health and how I feel. And so the weight loss is pretty cool, but yeah, and for me, it's really nice to be able to share this. So.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? It's not like we're anti-men, because we're not. And it's
Right.
not like we don't like discussing things with men when we want to, because we do. But there is something, and I'm sure it's exactly the same for all male environments. When it's all women together, you do just have this freedom and this confidence in being able to be very open and
Right.
share things and help each other in an environment that just feels very safe, very open, very natural.
Well, I've noticed in some of the other groups, men tend to be very, I did it this way, so you should do it this way. And this is the only way that it works. And all the women are just like so supportive of each other and what we are individually doing, so nobody's going to tell you, oh, you can't do that. That's wrong. And which I hugely appreciate, because I'm sure me eating at 9 o'clock or 10 at night, is not going to work for other people. And right now, honestly, it's not working for me. I'm stalled. And however, I feel good. So that's kind of what I'm concentrating on right now. I still feel well. And so if I'm too worried about the weight part of it, then we'll change something up. But right now, I'm just worried about how do I feel? And I feel great.
Yeah, which is the thing that matters most. And also, you have to make your eating patterns and what you eat fit around your life.
Exactly.
And ultimately, when you're working as you do, that is your time to eat. So, that's
Exactly.
the time you've got to eat.
Well, and like I said, I've been on this plateau for quite a while now, but it's a plateau I can live with, because I started out over 200 pounds, and I've only lost 40. However, I went from a size 20 down to a size 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know that my weight is not the end all be all of how I feel and how I look. So, because I'm only 5'2", and people are always surprised to hear how much I weigh, because I carry it fairly well.
And like you say, it's about so much more than that number on the scale. And I mean, especially I know you've gone through some pretty heavy emotional periods over this last year, and being able to cope a bit better with those must make a huge difference too.
When my mom passed away, I was pretty devastated. Still am, but I'm handling it pretty well now. But if it hadn't been for keto, I don't know that I would still be around. My depression may have taken over my life. I mean, because I was pretty depressed anyway, but because I was eating well, and because my husband is an amazing person, I was able to get through it and actually deal with it. I still have moments where, for no reason at all, I'll burst out into tears, but for the most part, I'm doing really well. And the KKB had a lot to do with that. You guys were extremely supportive and helpful to me. Before my mom passed, if I had any good news to say, I would call her. And I would always call her every single day. And so the hardest part after she passed away was getting in the car and not having that person to call. So it was pretty tough. But I'd have to say, when my mom was ill and I was going to visit her, I cheated once on keto. I mean, really cheated, and got to Arizona where my mom was. And I was so sick for 2 whole days. I didn't eat for 2 days because I was so ill from what I had eaten as the cheat, that after she passed away, I was not even tempted to eat my feelings. I was not even slightly tempted, because I had totally cured myself of any desire to ever feel like that again. So it helped me a lot to have done that one time. before she passed away. And then after she passed away, it wasn't even an option.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good for me.
I was going to say, there is often an upside. People often beat themselves up so much when they go off plan for whatever reason and for
Right.
however long. But the upside of that is the experience that you get from it, which more often than not is a negative experience.
Oh, it was terrible. I was visiting the bathroom every 20 minutes. I was nauseous. I was dizzy and not feeling well, just in general. It was awful. And I never want to feel like that again. So that I am not in the least bit tempted, because my grandkids are still eating non-keto foods. So I have all of that in the house. I am not even slightly tempted. So, which is really nice to not have that temptation. So
Yes, exactly. And it's nice that you had something that could help you get through that really difficult time. Something that you
Absolutely.
knew was making, obviously it was an awful experience to go through, but it was something that could just make it that little bit easier to handle.
Yeah, like I said, if I had given into that temptation of eating my feelings, I don't know that I would still be with you guys. It was that bad. And I just felt controlled. It was a controlled depression rather than that out of control blackness that I had before. So before keto, depression was definitely part of my life. So
Yeah. It's something that you can see the end of as well. If you've got hope in that
exactly.
period, however black it is, if you've got hope and you can see that little pinprick of light at the end, it's just that little bit easier to deal with, isn't it?
Well, and one of the good things that came out of, if you can call anything about my mom passing good, but I talked to my siblings more than I did. So I think we've all gotten a little more the idea that we need each other. We need to talk. We need to stay in touch. So my older brother lives in the Chicago area. My younger brother lives in Eastern Washington State. My sister lives in Arizona. And we all talk at least 2 or 3 times a month now, where, we would go a year without talking. So and my sister, I'm so excited about this. My sister is coming on the 8th to visit me. She'll be here for a whole month because she has seen what keto has done for my husband and I, and she knows she's terribly addicted to sugar. And so she's going to detox, and I'm going to teach her how to cook.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
And a month, yeah, that's a really good block of time.
Exactly.
That she can get through those first difficult hurdles and be going home a different person.
Exactly. Yeah. So she's very tall. I'm only 5'2", but she's 5'11". And so she can carry a little more weight than I can, but she's getting older too and realizes she can't continue like this. So she's decided that this is what she needs to do. So she's going to come stay with me, and I'm going to help her.
Well, that's going to be fun.
Yes.
I look forward to hearing about your progress on that.
Well, and we're going to take before pictures when she gets here and do all the measurements. And Louise Reynolds brought me the freestyle tester for ketones and glucose. So I'm going to be doing all of that with her as well. So
fabulous.
Yes. So I'm very excited. So I'm trying to talk my other siblings into it too, but they're still, they see the advantages. They see what I'm doing, but they're both not willing to attempt it yet.
Well, perhaps when the second sibling does it and
right.
makes a good go of it.
That's what I'm hoping.
You can book the next one in for a month keto boot camp with Pamela.
Right, exactly. So, and I'm a pretty good cook, and I know how to keto-fy almost anything. There are a few things I'm still working on, but I'm pretty good at making most things keto at this point. So, Thanksgiving this last year, I did a completely keto meal. And my nephew and his roommate and a couple of their friends all came out, and not one of them had any this was better before, and not any of them. I even made a blackberry pie for them and completely keto, and they loved it. So they were pretty thrilled.
Fabulous. it can be done.
It can be done.
To be honest, the usual outcome is that it tastes so much better.
Yeah, well, my biggest thing now is that hollandaise sauce was always a major guilty pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't eat hollandaise. It's so full of fat. It's so bad for you, bad for you, bad for you. And now hollandaise sauce is a staple in our diet with no guilt. And the no guilt is the best part of it.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's so nice to have something that you should be eating.
Right.
Tasting so good.
Tasting so amazing. Yeah. So, and I have neighbors that raise chickens, so I get fresh eggs, and I make my own butter. And, so we eat a lot of really good food. We have 40 acres on our farm. So, one of our neighbors borrows part of our pasture for his cows. And in return, we get a half a steer a year.
Lovely.
Yeah. We raise meat chickens, so I raise my own chicken for meat. And another neighbor is raising a pig for us, and she is feeding her pigs all of the way that from our classes. So I'm going to get really great pork this month too. So
yeah, I love that circle of everything connecting together and the recycling element, and yeah,
me too. So.
And good food on your plate at the end of the day.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, the whey is a really cool thing because there are so many uses for it. And first and foremost, I use it on my skin.
Really?
So, yeah, because whey is full of lactic acid. And lactic acid is a really great exfoliant. And then the whey itself is a great moisturizer, and it's very nourishing for your skin. So it's really good for you. So.
Wow. So some goes on your skin, some goes in the pigs.
Yep. As soon as my chickens are a little older, the chickens will get some. It's really great for their feathers. It's high in acid, so it's good for their stomach health. I pour it on my compost pile. It's really good for kickstarting your compost. Pre-keto, if you boil pasta in the whey, it makes your pasta nice and sticky. So the sauce sticks really well. It's really great for soup base. It's high in protein and calcium. You can add lemon juice and sweetener and make it into lemonade. And it's exactly the same stuff as whey protein powder. It's just still got all the water in it. So you can put ice cubes in your morning smoothie for whey protein. So it's really, really good stuff. It's not keto. It's high in lactose.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't drink it, but mostly it goes to the pigs at the moment. So.
Just a little pot for your skin.
Exactly. Yeah, which is fine with me.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you end up with bacon.
Exactly.
Who can argue with that?
Well, and I make my own bacon. So we buy probably 20 pounds of pork belly twice a month.
Wow.
And I make bacon. So I'm looking forward to having my own pig and I won't be selling that bacon. That will be my own bacon.
I bet. Yeah. That'll be the stuff you keep at home.
Exactly.
My sister, a friend of hers, raises rare breed pigs, for selling, for the meat. And she always has a box of that every year. And there was a pork box and there was a bacon box. And yeah, I've had that bacon a couple of times now. It is incredible. I mean, just the comparison to even the best stuff you buy in the shops.
I know.
I mean, there's just no comparison. The flavor, there's no shrinkage in the pan. Oh, yep. It is delicious.
Well, and so I had gotten into the habit of cooking my bacon in the oven on a rack, and I've had to break myself of that habit because I want all that fat now, where I used to want it to be gone. So now I actually cook the bacon in the pan on the parchment paper instead of putting it on a rack. So, and I have a new little jar to catch all the bacon grease on when I cook it too, because I use that for cooking a lot.
Exactly. I'd got into the habit of cooking it in the oven actually, and I will do when I get my new cooker. But that's exactly it. I would actually just did it directly in the pan. The pan seems to clean up quite well. But yes, you get the bacon and then that lovely, all the fat, collecting it in the jar and it layers up. Yeah, delicious.
So have you been looking for a new cooker?
I have, and I'm on the verge of ordering one.
Oh, good. Excellent.
I was very torn. Do I stick with gas or do I go with induction? But I think I have been tempted by induction because I hate cleaning the gas hobs. I just hate it. It drives me mad. And cooking a fry up every morning, ideally, I'm going to put my hands up here. I don't clean it every day, but it could do with cleaning every day.
Right.
So the lure of a nice flat glass induction hob that just needs a wipe over is too much. I was concerned about the reaction time. Gas, you turn it on and the heat's there instantly, and I was worried that I would lose that because I do love cooking and I love the reaction time of gas. But I have experimented on an induction hob and it's very quick. It's not like an electric.
Right. I have induction at my house, and I can boil a gallon of water in 90 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I was going to tell you a little clue that you can do, for your fry up in the morning. Put a piece of parchment paper under your pan, between the pan and your and the stove itself.
Right. This is on the induction hob.
On the induction. And then once you're done frying, you just take off the paper, and you can use a paper towel. You can use anything you want. It won't burn.
That's freaky. That sounds like some kind of sorcery that's going to set my kitchen on fire.
Yeah. No, you will not. So just I use parchment paper, put it under the pan, do your frying, because I use cast iron for my steaks, and I splash everywhere. So put the paper underneath, do your fry up, and then just take the paper off and throw it away.
Who knew? Well, that's something. It's going to be one of those things that I test it, and I'm going to be thinking, well, Pamela said this is going to work, but I still think I'm going to set my kitchen on fire.
The nice thing about induction too is if the pan is not on the burner, It won't come on.
Yeah, because it's a symbiotic relationship, isn't it? It won't heat. It's
exactly.
It's magnetic, isn't it? Because that's how you can test, isn't it? Whether your pan will work or not is whether a magnet will stick to it.
Yep. So
and the good thing is mine. That most of my pans, I've got one little egg pan that won't work on it, but all my pans, cast iron and the ones I have, they're all going to work on it. So that's fine.
I love the cast iron. That's my favorite way to cook. So
me too.
I have 5 of them. So yeah, a couple of Dutch ovens and things like that. So it's really nice that they work on my burners. So I live out in the boonies. So I have, if I were going to go with gas, it'd be propane. And I didn't want to use propane for cooking with. So we went with induction when we remodeled our kitchen.
Yeah, that's one of the things with mine, actually, that I'm not on mains gas here. I'm out in the middle of nowhere in France, and I'm on bottle gas. And so, yeah, that's another thing that would be nice.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, decision is made.
Yay! Excellent. Yeah, I love induction. That's what I use for teaching all my cheese classes as well.
Right.
So it's a very even cooking. It's quick. It's really, really handy.
Yes, and when I hear a professional cook saying that, Taffany said the same thing. She said that she's used induction, commercially, and it works fine.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I love gas as a chef. Gas is always going to be my first love, but because we had propane instead of gas, we went with induction, and I'm very, very happy we did. But yay, I'm glad you've decided.
I have. I had things to do, as you know, back in the UK. So I put it on hold until I was back. But yes, going to get that order in. Very excited.
Awesome.
So tell me about the other branch of what you do, because your shop is called Wine and Way.
So I've been making wine almost as long as I've been making cheese. And so when we opened this place, it just made sense to do both. And we are a winery, so we can sell wine as well. But our main goal, or what we do, is called on-site venting, which somebody can come in, pick out what kind of wine they'd like to learn how to make, We walk them through the whole process. They use all of our equipment, all of our space. I clean up for them. I clean up after them. And so we charge a fee for that. And then the wine itself is another fee. And each batch of wine is 28 to 30 bottles. And so that's one option. And then the other option is a class where I get 10 to 16 people in here. We as a group pick one type of wine to learn how to make. I walk them through the whole process. And then in 40-ish days, they come back and they bottle the wine. And each person in the class gets to take 2 bottles of wine home with them.
Oh, how lovely! That sounds fantastic. And I imagine that makes the difference. I've known a few people who've experimented with making wine at home, and I think it's very important, isn't it, that the equipment is scrupulously clean and all those things. Just a tiny little thing that's wrong there can screw up your whole batch of wine.
Yes, it can.
So presumably that's something that can be avoided with coming and making it.
Exactly, because we have all of the equipment, we have everything set up, so it makes it very, very easy to stay clean and sanitized. So it's not quite as sensitive as beer making would be, but because it's higher alcohol, so it has a little more leeway. But it's very important to be sanitary. I think the favorite thing people get to do is they get to design their own label for their wine. So, and people love that part of it.
I bet.
So we have a lot of really cool labels here because we print out an extra label for everybody. So everybody gets to put their label on the board. And so everybody else gets to see what they did too. So.
And what's the favorite kind of wine that people like to make?
Well, generally red of any kind, but we have one we call Trinity Red. It's a Cab Franc Merlot blend, so a Bordeaux blend. And that seems to be the best seller. So, but we just call it Trinity Red. And now we sell some other wines, and we gave them all, they call them fanciful names. And our best seller is called Bad Wolf Red. So, and it's a Merlot blend that's super oaky and absolutely delicious. So
that sounds fantastic. And presumably, you can get hold of any grape varieties. I mean, what's your source?
These are all kit wines.
Oh, okay.
So it comes in, so it's the pressed juice. It has, if it requires oak, it's got oak. If it requires sugar, like if we're making a Gewürztraminer, it has the sugar packet to add back to it. It has the yeast. Right. Yep. So everything is in that kit. And the kits range somewhere from $100 to $225. But it makes 28 to 30 bottles of wine, each kit does. So a lot of people take it home and do it at home as well. So we sell them for that as well. So we have a lot of options. We do team builders and bachelorette parties and birthday parties. We do a lot. We have a beautiful space. So we have a really good hosting space for parties and stuff as well.
I was going to say, I like that when you mentioned before the group aspect of it and all making it and presumably contributing to the labeling and all the rest of it.
Well, and one of the fun things about these classes is I'm taking 16 people, presumably a lot of couples, but mostly people that don't know each other. And so many times after the class is over, we have the burger bar right across the street from where we are. And a lot of the people these people that have never met before will go over to the burger bar and have a couple of drinks after the class together. They just met at my class. So, and that happens a lot here. It's a very social, fun thing to do. Plus, I serve wine during the whole class, so that helps.
I was going to say, I mean, you've really got the perfect setup.
We really do. Yeah. So all of my cheese classes come with, wine on the table. I generally make bruschetta, and we have a local cracker company here, and they donate all the crackers for all of our classes. So there's always crackers, and then water for those people who are not drinking wine. So,
But I mean, fabulous combination, isn't it? Wine and cheese. And that's another thing where there's actually science behind it, isn't there? The flavors play off each other and
there is, yes,
enhance each other. So, you put something like a nice red with a nice blue cheese.
Yes.
And they taste better together than they do separately.
Well, and we do port-style wine classes as well. And so we just bottled a couple of ports the other day. And on the bottling date, we always encourage people to bring potluck, and share with the whole class. And so one of the people in my last class brought a really beautiful Stilton to share with the class with our port that we made. And the port that we made it's a chocolate salted caramel.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah. Very much not keto.
No.
But it was beautiful with the Stilton. It was absolutely beautiful. So, and we do things like that all the time with all of our classes. So it's a lot of fun. I made a huge cheese tray for everybody. So, because everybody brought food. And so if you agree to bring food, I will contribute. And I got lazy and just did cheese, but normally I would cook something. So.
What a wonderful work environment, though. I mean, you've gone from, yes, doing something that you love originally, making the cheese, but it was too stressful and too much work, to developing that into this environment where you just make people happy and are surrounded by happy people all the time. It sounds incredible.
Well, the cool thing is that we've been open for 4.5 years, and in that 4.5 years, as of the other night, I've only had 3 people that I hope never, ever come back. In 4.5 years, that's amazing.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah. And so I am in a really good work environment. I get to drink while I'm teaching classes.
How many people can say that?
Exactly. I get to drink on the job. So,
although in your honor, I have to say that I have a glass of red wine here. I thought it seemed absolutely appropriate to be drinking wine while talking to you. What wines would you recommend for keto? What are it's the dry wines, presumably, that are the best.
Exactly. All wine has a little bit of residual sugar, not enough that it's really a problem. If you're only going to have 1 or 2 glasses, you're going to be well under your 20 grams of carbs. Merlots tend to have a little more sugar. Cabernets, Zinfandels are really great. I love Petite Syrah. That's one of my very favorite ones. The Australian Shirazes generally are pretty good. Carl is trying to figure out how to test for sugar completely. So, and we're going to have some ideas about that at Keto Fest.
Oh, brilliant. That's something to look forward to.
Exactly.
To be honest, I tend to go probably with my gut on the flavor. I like dry wines in general with red and white, so I figure the drier they are, the least sugar they're going to have in.
Exactly.
So I hope anyway that's quite a good indicator. I mean, this is a Pinot Noir, which is very light and dry, so I'm assuming that's probably quite low
Pinot
carb.
Noirs, some of them are great. So if it tastes nice and dry to you, then it's probably fine. A lot of the California Pinots tend to be slightly sweeter.
Right, this is a French one, so maybe they're a bit drier.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I could talk about wine and cheese.
Me too.
Till the cows come home.
I'm terribly passionate about cheese, and it's so funny that I'm in this business that everybody focuses on the wine, and that's great. But I'm a cheesemaker. That is my passion and my calling. I'm really good at the wine. I win awards for my winemaking, but cheese is really the thing I love, and that I feel so fortunate to be able to share with other people. And it never gets old. I mean, I've made mozzarella hundreds and hundreds of times, and every single time it's still beautiful. It's still amazing. It's still miraculous. So I don't know that I'll ever get tired of that. I just don't know.
That's true passion, isn't it?
It is.
I can see it when you're talking and I can hear it in your voice. But what you say, that magic every time, that just shows that passion, that true love for what you do.
Cheese is really cool because the same basic 4 ingredients, you have the milk, you have the rennet, the culture, and salt. Those same 4 ingredients will make thousands of different types of cheese.
Oh, incredible, the variety.
It is. And it's just amazing to me. It's beautiful. So, yeah, I don't know that I'll ever get tired of cheese making.
I don't think you will.
So
I really look forward to them. Presumably that's probably on the Saturday you're going to be doing a cheese demonstration, and you're going to be making burrata, you said.
I am, yes.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, hopefully I'll be able to participate in that.
Oh, I would love to have some help. My husband's going to be with me.
Hands up. I volunteer here. I've got both hands in the air.
Because I think I'm going to be doing all-day demos on Saturday. So I think at some point my husband's going to get tired and go do something else. So
great.
I will be happy to have some help. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. I was so happy when they funded on time.
Oh, me too. Well, ahead of time. I think they funded 3 days ahead of time.
3 days ahead of time. Did you see the final amount?
I can't remember the exact, but I know it went to something like 111% in the end. It went well over. Yes,
they did. I was so happy.
A big ask to it. It just shows the faith people have in the 2 keto dudes, in what they do, in them as fantastic people, that they've managed to double what they did last year. It's quite a feat.
Well, I think the whole keto community in general, we, as far as the people that I've been hearing and associating with, are so supportive of each other. I mean, I avoid the ones, obviously, some of the other groups that are not so nice. I avoid them. So maybe I'm just insulated against all the really bad ones, but it just seems like the keto community is so amazing in general. And I love that about this. This is the first group I've ever been part of that I don't want to hit anybody ever.
No stabby moments.
No, exactly. So I think it's been an amazing experience. And I keep telling people, because I'm kind of an evangelist, I think we all kind of become that way as far as keto is concerned. And even if I never lost another pound, I'm never going back. I feel so amazing not having to use my asthma medicine, not having the roller coaster of blood sugar. And to me, that's so much more important than the weight loss. I don't care about the weight as far as that goes. I care about, do I feel good? And I do.
Mm-hmm. That's real quality of life stuff, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Obviously,
it is.
When you're over a certain weight, that in itself just impacts quality of life. But once it gets down past a certain point where it stops being so difficult to do things, then you're right. It's just a number that's really not that important.
Well, when my husband and I started this, he also was quite heavy. And he's lost a lot, but he wears a size 18 shoe generally. And part of that was his weight. And he wears brackets on his ankles because his ankles are so weak. He's been able to give up his brackets completely.
Wow.
And go down a shoe size because he doesn't have to wear the brackets, and he's thinner. So his feet don't hurt anymore. I mean, there's so much that's changed for him. And the best thing for me, he doesn't snore anymore.
Oh, wow. That's a big change.
It's a
good
huge
one for you.
change.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, he also had a severe case of apnea.
Right.
And so I was sleeping badly because I was always pushing him to breathe all night,
and always
every night.
Probably pretty anxious too.
Yes. So the apnea is gone, the snoring is gone. So I sleep better. He looks better. He feels better. Everything. Yeah. So keto for the win, always.
Absolutely for the win. Well, it's been fantastic talking to you today, Pamela. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you.
Perhaps you could round up with a top tip.
Yes, I was thinking about this today. My top tip is don't be afraid to ask for help. I have never been good at that. That was never a good thing for me. I grew up very independent. My mom was, you never ask for help. You do it for yourself. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that we are not an island, and we really need to not be afraid to ask for help. And that's the biggest thing, whether it's keto related or just life related. Ask for help if you need it.
That's a very good tip, and it resonates a lot with me, actually. I find it very, very hard to ask for help, and fiercely independent, and just being used to having to do pretty well everything for myself. You get used to being that way and stop asking for help. But there really is so much pleasure to be had from receiving help from people, but people actually get pleasure in helping you too.
Exactly.
It works both ways, doesn't it?
It's a good thing to learn.
It is. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's a great tip, and I've enjoyed talking about all things wine and cheese.
Me too.
And I look forward to meeting you in the summer at Keto Fest.
Yes, I will see you there. It's not very long.
It's not. It's coming round fast.
It's very, very soon. So it was nice talking with you, Daisy. Thank you so much.
And you. Thank you.
Bye.
To get the resources and links from the show, please go to ketowomanpodcast.com. Are you my next extraordinary woman? Maybe you've got an idea for a show, a topic you want to hear about. Let me know how I can tickle your earbuds by dropping me a line at daisy@ketowomanpodcast.com. If you fancy joining me on this exciting adventure and want to help me create new episodes, please go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/ketowoman, or simply hit the support button on the Keto Woman podcast website. It's thanks to the two keto dudes that I'm hosting this podcast. So please consider heading to their Patreon page at patreon.2keto.com and help them bring you more podcasts like this one. Please help other people hear about and find this podcast by reviewing the show on iTunes and Facebook. Every star and review really does help. It doesn't go unnoticed by me, the people who regularly like, share and comment on my posts. Your support means the world to me. Thank you. This week's quote is from Charles de Gaulle. Living in France and surrounded by amazing cheese and wine, I thought it would be fitting. How can you govern a country which has 246 varieties of cheese? But wait, I saw this one and it tickled me, so you get 2 for the price of 1 this week. This is a philosophical musing from Bertolt Brecht. What happens to the whole when the cheese is gone? Bye-bye, Keto Lovelies.